All right, welcome back everyone to the Be Healthy and Thrive podcast. I am Brianna, your host, and I have with me Bethany, who is an amazing woman of God, and just amazing in regards to health and wellness as well. And she has a really great story that I know is going to bless the women and those listening. So this series is all about loving God completely with your whole health and life. And in particular, this particular episode is around physical health. So Bethany, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. So great. And I was just thinking about who to ask for this particular segment. I was like, Bethany, let's just do it. Because you have a beautiful story, and I know you love God, and you show that in everything you do. So can you just maybe tell us a little bit more about you and what you do?
Well, I live in northern Maine, and I actually work for a local hospital. I do community outreach wellness programs in several different communities. So I travel around kind of bridging the gap between healthcare and preventive wellness piece. And I bring experts in to deliver programs, and then sometimes I deliver the programs depending on the topic and what's needed in those communities. But because I've also have my own kind of a health journey with endometriosis and weight struggles and thyroid issues through my life, I've also kind of taken my health back in recent years. And I've had a lot of people asking me, how did you do it? How did you lose all this weight? And so I've had a lot of people kind of initiating this wellness piece on the side outside of my regular job. And so I've been working and helping people online through my Facebook groups and through social media to kind of regain their health and wellness.
Yeah, and you've been doing it so well too, and because you're all about baby steps, and I love that. A part of your group, and for the last 12 weeks, you've got taking people through bit by bit, and it's just been so great. So maybe can you tell us a little bit about your story, because you mentioned it a little bit before around endometriosis, thyroid, and weight gain, and can you kind of just tell us about how kind of where you were and then what got you to where you are right now?
Well, I've always kind of struggled with abdominal pain and weight issues, and always had really horrible cycles from the time I was a young teenager first having my period. And so I kind of just felt like this must be it. This must be the monthly thing. This is normal for, I guess, all women. And so I didn't really pay much mind to it. I did what I had to do to kind of push through and get by. And as I started to use some substances and alcohol to kind of suppress and numb those pains when I got into college, I started really kind of packing on more and more weight using these addictive substances, and obviously not getting a lot of exercise and not eating well. So those combinations were just like the trifecta of this woman's going off the rails in the health and wellness department. And as I kind of became more aware of my cycle and what I was doing to kind of numb the pain and deal with it, I met my now husband, and we became born again Christian believers. And as a result of that being born again, obviously the substance use and alcohol numbing and all those hard lifestyle issues kind of melted away as my faith grew. And as it did, my abdominal pain became ever more present, because now I was not numbing it anymore, and it was just completely debilitating. And so my husband was praying. Well, at the time we got married, my husband was praying for me, and I had been told early on that I couldn't have children, and to me that was not a big deal. I wasn't even thinking about having kids at the time. And as we became further into our Christian walk, we ended up in a Christian ministry to children, where we met the daughter that we have now since adopted, and she's turning 21 today. It's her birthday, actually.
Aww, happy birthday.
And so we met her when she was 6, and simultaneously that week that we met her, we found out we were pregnant with what we thought was a miracle baby, since I was told early on that I probably wouldn't be able to have children. And so we just kind of grew in our faith. But as the pregnancy happened, and that helped my endometriosis pain for a while, after I had the baby, it kind of came back with a vengeance, and I struggled for many years, was bedridden, with chronic stabbing abdominal pain and saw specialist after specialist. No one could figure it out. They thought I had IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. They did colonoscopies. I did everything in the name of my health, acupuncture, trial drugs that put me into medicinal menopause and created a host of other side effects as a result. I had thyroid issues, which I've just learned recently are linked to one of the medications, the experimental medications that I was put on back in the day. I had 3 surgeries within 3 years of each other to go in and clean out the endometriosis, and 2 of them were done by just a local person who really didn't have the expertise to really go in and do the right kind of work that needed to be done to eradicate it. And so I was pretty much at a point where I was prepared to just have a hysterectomy and just say, take it all out. I'm done with these parts. I've had my miracle baby. We're good. And about a week or 2 before I was scheduled to have this hysterectomy, I had already had one of my ovaries removed. So, I had already had a not good chance of having a baby. Well, I thought I have a less than likely chance of having one now. And 2 weeks before the surgery, I found out I was pregnant with my second little miracle baby. So I had been on a pretty heavy pain management regimen, which was also, taking its toll on my weight and my health and keeping me more bedridden because I was just in a constant stupor from these medications that were making me tired and feel even sicker than the pain. It was almost like I had to weigh, is it worth sleeping the whole day to handle this pain for a couple hours, or can I just push through? Like, those were the choices I was facing daily. Is it worth it right now to take this pill that's going to put me to sleep, or should I just press on and deal with the pain? And so I know that those years contributed a lot to the 297-pound girl that I became. And after the second pregnancy, about almost a year later, it's always been kind of a year after a surgery or a year after the babies, the pain started coming back and coming back. And so a few years after my second child, I had a radical hysterectomy, and they said that should take care of it. We saw some endo in there, but we left it. But since you're not producing estrogen, that should just die off. It's not going to be fed anymore. So don't worry about it. Go on with your life. And for 4 years I have been, and I kind of got to a breaking point I want to say it was probably 6 months after my hysterectomy, where I was at 297 on the scale. And I said, oh my gosh, this is a scary place. I don't want to be with a 3 in front of my number. And if you're there, and to any of the listeners, if you're there, I'm not judging you if you have a 3 in front of your number. It, for me, was just a place that I knew was perpetuating cycles that I had seen in my own mother's life. And so I knew that 3 was going to be there was no coming back from a 3 for me, in my mind. Anyway, I know you can come back from anywhere, but in my mind, I had seen my mother at a 3, and she is still struggling to this day with her numbers. But for me, it was just kind of the wake up call. And I said, something's got to change. And at this point, my abdominal pain was still there, but it was tolerable. I knew I had some scar tissue damage from my multiple procedures, and I knew that was just going to be something I needed to deal with for the rest of my life. So I just kind of dug in with my faith, and I really just started thinking, like, what do I need to do to make this work? I've tried every diet in the land. I've tried every exercise you can possibly imagine. I've tried everything through the years. And I know that my health and my wellness issues were working against me. But at the same time, I also knew that some of those plans were working against me as well, bringing in too much all at once. The overwhelm of, cleaning out your entire kitchen and saying, I'm never going to eat sugar again, or I'm never going to eat this, and I've got to weigh everything and measure everything. And it just made me crazy. And I said, the only thing I haven't tried is one step at a time. I can't focus on changing 15 things, joining a gym, going and working out every day, never eating sugar again, no more gluten, no more dairy, drink 500 gallons of water every day. Like, it was just, whenever I did too many things at once, I would give up in 2 weeks, and it all was wasted, and all that time was lost, and all that money spent replacing these ingredients in my cabinets. And my family was going crazy, like, oh, here goes mom on another health kick, another diet. Now what can't we eat? And so I said, I haven't tried one thing at a time. And so I found one easy, super easy, healthy habit, having hot lemon water first thing in the morning. And I started there, and I changed nothing else for 3 months. Basically, all I did was wake up and have a hot cup of lemon water first thing in the morning. And for me, that was just a simple success right out of the door that I had under my belt. And did it stop me from always going to the drive-thru? No. Did it always stop me from craving sweets in the afternoon? No. But there were many days where I could look back and say, you started the day really good. You made a great decision first thing in the morning, Beth. Are you going to choose to go on a different path right now when you had this great foundation and this start to the day? And so sometimes, as I began making it a habit, sometimes that just that little success first thing in the morning was enough to kind of help me make better decisions throughout the day. And it also has health benefits of its own. Lemon is really good for appetite and detoxifying, and helping out with fiber in the pectin. And there's a host of other great benefits that come from this practice of hot lemon water first thing in the morning. And then I said, okay, well, now I've been doing this for a couple months. What else can I add on? And so I just started adding one step at a time until I had a dozen steps that I was doing, and I had little time for other foolishness. And so that's how I lost my 120 pounds. And I've kept it off for almost 3 years now, just doing the very same things.
Wow. What a story and testament, right? Like, wow. And how do you feel like your faith really played into that journey? Because, you mentioned you became kind of a Christian before the whole, the weight loss journey, but also in the middle of the endometriosis. So, like, how do you feel like your faith impacted that?
Well, when I was in Tennessee, when I lived in Tennessee, which would have been right around the time my endo was kind of in full swing and I was going through multiple procedures, I actually I did a Bible study called Lose It for Life by, I think it's Stephen Arterburn. And while it's not a specific weight loss plan per se, it was the first time in all of my years that I really started to look at food from a spiritual perspective, that there were emotions tied with it, that there was a mindfulness and an awareness that needed to happen with my eating. And so after the lemon water, that mindful and awareness piece became the foundation of my that's like the foundation of my Baby Steps to Better Health program. And my journey was, having that awareness, because if you're just eating mindlessly, you don't even know what you're doing. You don't even know what the status quo is. So how are you going to change it? And, I could sit down in front of a TV and eat, and then look at the empty bags and be like, oh my gosh, who just ate all of this? And it was me, and I really just didn't pay attention. I had the blinders on and I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. But that Bible study opened up my eyes to this mindful awareness and spirituality of food, and how we assign emotions to the food and we assign characteristics to the food, like food is good or food is bad. Well, food is not good or bad. We are the ones that assign those labels to food. Food is created to nourish us, and we're the ones who assign these good and bad labels to it. If I'm struggling with a food, that doesn't mean it's bad for you. You could maybe have soy and enjoy it, but it's not good for me and my condition. I know that it feeds my endometriosis, so I avoid soy. But telling me that I can never have dairy again just because maybe in some people dairy is not a good thing, but I've never necessarily seen a real problem with dairy in my world. I don't drink it a whole lot. I can moderate myself very, very well in the dairy department. But putting out a blanket statement like dairy is bad, it's like, who says? So kind of looking at things and learning about my body and seeing how my body responded to different things. And in the name of my endometriosis, I tried anti-estrogenic diets and different kinds of adding different kinds of cruciferous vegetables in mass quantities to kind of combat the estrogen that I knew my body was making and feeding the disease with. And so, you know, I learned a lot through the process of being sick, and being aware and mindful was the complete foundation of that. And I know, you know, praying and walking through this with a foundation of faith. I mean, God is the author of all health and wellness. It all comes from him. And so I knew that regardless of what was going on in my body, regardless of what I was dealing with, even on the worst of days where I couldn't get out of bed and I was holed up with my BFF, the heating pad, you know, I knew I wasn't alone. God was there with me. I knew my husband was praying for me. I had networks of people praying for me. I had church friends and family dropping by and being supportive, even though they couldn't even understand the condition and the pain and things that I was dealing with. But I don't know how I would have been successful in my weight loss without my faith as the foundation. And I think it was pretty clear from my lack of success prior to my newfound faith that it wasn't possible for me to be successful without incorporating God into it somehow.
So good. I love it because, I think I have a very similar, well, not similar story, but in regards to really struggling with eating disorders and just body perception and the mind is really where it starts. And for me, you know, trying so long and then finally being like, it's a very similar, like, I need to do this. Like, I felt like Jesus was calling me, like, you need to do this with me and just slowly. And don't worry about how you look. Don't worry about, and it was just like a release, like the pressure was gone. And I started a program called First Place for Health, which is a Christian weight loss health program.
Yep.
And I remember finding my stuff. Like I tried it years before, but I was like, whatever. I remember finding my books and just being like, I think it's time, you know, very, we got married, moved back 6 months later. I just felt like this. And it was like the most life-giving experience because I'm like, I just walked and I just changed one food habit, one thing at a time. And it was enjoyable for the first time in my life. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, it was just great. And I think I drew so much closer to the Lord because of having these Bible studies that just focused me, you know, and sometimes it dealt with, you know, physical health, but sometimes it's very much like what's going on in your relationships, what's going on in your mind, you know, and I really loved that because it was holistic from the beginning and seeing that God wanted our whole health in life. So I really love that it's similar, that the true lifelong sustainable change happens one thing at a time. And there's room for like a detox. There's room for a challenge. There's room for that. But the key is knowing that don't go into it thinking this is going to fix me. Go into thinking this is going to cleanse me. And then I can do little one or two things from here, right? Like, cause you know, I do the whole thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I think that the important piece in there too is that prior to my faith, there was no grace being applied. Like I would start these plans and I would fail and I would feel like garbage. I'd feel like you're a loser that can't be successful at this. You're going to just struggle for the rest of your days. Whereas with that faith filter and that foundation in God, like I'm forgiven. And I can now forgive myself when I go off the rails, and I'm fully aware when I am making what would be deemed a bad food choice, I am doing that in full and total awareness now. This is no blinders on Bethany anymore. This is all just straight up, I'm making this choice and I know what I'm doing. And if I even begin to feel that little niddling of guilt behind it, I can squash that immediately now because of my faith, because, you know, there's no guilt. There is no shame here. This is freedom. And there is forgiveness in this. This is not I don't have to live in this place of guilt and shame and lack of success because I weigh 297 pounds. Even if I still was 297 pounds, I think I would love that girl even more now, knowing what I know and knowing that there is grace in all of it. And I
Mm-hmm.
needed to love myself first. And I couldn't do that. I don't know how I could have done that without knowing God's love
Mm-hmm.
for myself,
Mm-hmm.
for me first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, love that. I love that so much. Yeah, because I think you're so right. I did a series back in May on, I don't know if you were, yeah, I think you might have joined it. The No Flaw series, just like on restoring your relationship with food, your body, and yourself. And it was from a biblical point of view. It was from Psalms 4:7, where it talks about,
Mm-hmm.
um, you're altogether beautiful, my darling. There is no flaw in you. And just affirming that when it comes to your relationship with your body, food, who you are, and with God, that God really has, he doesn't see the flaws. He doesn't see, yeah, he sees the mistakes we see, but he gives us grace in it and forgiveness. So I love that, you chose to receive God's grace and forgiveness on that journey. So
Mm-hmm.
good. So tell us a bit about what you do with your side business as a health and wellness coach, and then also a little bit about your giveaway that you're offering.
Well, right now I'm getting ready to launch a new group called Baby Steps to Better Health in the new year. And it's scheduled to start on January 1st, but depending on some health things that I have going on, it may be pushed back a little bit. I've just finished a 12-week group that you mentioned earlier. That was kind of like my beta group. And I took just a group of 115 or so people, friends and family and different people that I was already connected with through the program, just to kind of work out the kinks, see if it worked, see what it, I didn't even know what this could potentially look like. So I'm in the process of kind of building a new group for the new year as a paid service. And then I'm actually getting certified in February as a health and wellness coach. And so that's kind of exciting. I'm preparing to kind of take on some maybe one-on-one clients at that point. But as part of my job, my boss knows obviously my weight loss story because it happened in the middle of my work years. He asked me to do a 6-week program through the holidays for the employees at the hospital. And so I said, well, I could do that. So we're doing this healthy through the holidays, and it's for just the employees at the hospital. And I said, well, you know what? I should just offer that online and see what happens to my Zell Being network. And so I've put it out there just yesterday. I started promoting it, but it's going to be a 6-week healthy through the holidays online coaching group. And I'm going to walk through 6 steps that'll help you kind of stay focused on your health and your wellness, and have some of the tools that you need to help prevent you from packing on those extra pounds that sometimes come with the holidays. And so today I'm giving away one membership to that 6-week group. And the group will have already started, I think, at the point where this airs, but all of the information from the weeks that were missed will be available in the group, and then be able to continue on with us through, I think it goes through January 6th of the new year.
Great. So good. I love it. Yeah. So as we kind of wrap up, is there anything based on what we talked about or shared, or even from your journey, that one piece of encouragement, or even a scripture, it could be either or, that really you want to just share with the listeners to encourage them on their physical health journey with God?
Well, I think, when we try and make all the plans, I know I have paralyzed myself through overanalysis and complicating things, and just making all these rigorous rules and structures to my weight loss journey. I had to really kind of learn and get to a place where I know, and now I know, that I'm not in control. God is the one that's in control, and he makes the plans, and his plan is the best plan. And so the more that I've become used to not resisting that, the better. When I live in that truth that I may make plans, but God's going to direct me, I have so much more success, so much more pleasure and joy in my life, and so much I'm able to apply his grace in so much more real way on a daily basis, because he knows the plans that he has for me, and they're plans to prosper me and not to cause me harm. And when I live in that truth, it helps me get through every minute of every day, regardless of the situation, whether it's I'm in bed with physical pain, whether it's my kids are running around and making me crazy, whether it's I gained 5 pounds. He is the plan keeper. He is
Mm-hmm.
my agenda maker, and his plan is the best. And when I rest in that truth, it's all good, regardless of whether it's good for me in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my encouragement. Take that, girls. Take that, whoever's
Woo!
listening. Live in that truth. God's plans are the ones that are
Yes.
going to help you, even when your plans fail, even when you're in misery and you don't even understand why you're having to deal with whatever it is that you're dealing with. God has a plan. He can use all things for good. And he's used my horrible substance abuse years. He's used all of my pain-filled testimonies to help others. And he's empowered me in that way to have the freedom and the courage to share those stories, because they're not my stories, they're his stories. And he gives me the confidence to share them, and in that process, bless others.
So good. Thank you so much. I'm encouraged from that. As we wrap up, can you just maybe then share where people can find you, your website, social media, and all of that?
Yep, you can find me my website is zellbeing.com, Zell, like my last name, zellbeing.com. And then I'm on Facebook at zell-being. And I think, and I have an Instagram, Zellbeing, and Twitter, Zellbeing. Everything is Zellbeing.
Zellbeing. That's
kind of a play on the word well-being. It's my own well-being. It's personalized for me, because I really feel like it has to be personalized for each of us. You know, what works for you may not always work for me. There are foundational truths that will overlap, but if it's not going to fit with your life, then it's not going to work for you for life. You need to make it work for you.
So great. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us and just sharing your heart and sharing your story. I know so many people are going to be blessed by this, and I can't wait for someone to win your awesome giveaway. Happy through the holidays. Healthy through the holidays.
Healthy through the holidays.
Yeah, I was like happy through the holidays too. That works, but it's healthy through the holidays.
Healthy holidays. You can be happy and healthy.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you.